Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. Frankly, the WWE product has been awful lately, while AEW has been absolutely killing it. That's why I'm so glad it's Wednesday night, because that means Dynamite on TNT. If you still want more AEW in your life, I highly recommend watching Being the Elite, Dark, and the special episode of Late Night Dynamite from this week. They were all fantastic. As always, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for plenty more pro wrestling and action figure content. But for now, we're headed into Daly's place, so for a review and some fantasy booking, let's take it over to the action figures. Dynamite begins with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford introducing the best man, Miro, who looks absolutely jacked, for his first match in AEW. He's got a brand new t-shirt in the colors of the Bulgarian flag, but his entrance pose is the same as in WWE. He and Kip are taking on the bad boy Joey Janela and the Concrete Rose Sonny Kiss, who've been impressing lately as a tag team. In a pre-match promo, Janela warns Kip that he's dated Penelope Ford, and let's just say she's not someone you want to marry. Sabian starts things off and builds anticipation to Miro's hot tag. When he finally does come in, Miro predictably cleans house. On a spill to the outside, he appears to roll his ankle but keeps going. Kip botches a dive onto Janela, and Joey can be heard asking, "Are you alright?" Then Miro botches catching Janela and almost drops him. This was definitely sloppy at times, but still a lot of fun. Miro yells, "Game over," and puts Sonny Kiss in what used to be called the Accolade. Sonny taps out, and the best man gets a victory in his debut. During the match, commentary tells us that Lance Archer came into contact with someone who has COVID-19. Out of precaution, he's being held out of action tonight, which ruins the six-man tag match. I feel so bad for Will Hobbs. This was supposed to be his big break. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Team Taz vs. Darby and Will Hobbs, so my fantasy booking would have been to just keep that match. Then, you could bring Moxley and Archer back when they're ready to be incorporated. Eddie Kingston, arguably the best talker in all of AEW, comes out to cut one of his legendary promos. He announces that the main event will now be him vs. Jon Moxley for the AEW World title, and he plays off the fact that he was never properly eliminated from the Casino Battle Royale to justify it. He continues, saying he and Moxley started out together, but Jon sold his soul to the devil when he went to the land of sports entertainers. Meanwhile, Eddie stayed with the fighters. Kingston calls out Mox for a stare down, and the champ happily obliges. Kenny Omega comes out for commentary again. They explain that this was originally a tag match, but Omega declined to team with Adam Page. At Tony's prodding, Kenny reiterates that he is 100% a singles competitor moving forward. So now, we get Hangman vs. Evil Uno of the Dark Order. The story of the match is that Page is still conflicted and unsure of himself, while Uno isn't used to wrestling alone. He resorts to cheating, while Hangman overcommits on moves, eating it hard multiple times. At one point, Page gets knocked onto the stage, and Dark Order starts to move in, but Evil Uno stops them and sends them to the back, seemingly wanting to win on his own. Colt Cabana, who's been taken under Uno's wing of late, is particularly surprised by this and even seems a little hurt. Later, Page tries to pull the same cheating move as Uno, but the ref denies him. Omega claims conspiracy. It doesn't matter though, as Hangman hits the buckshot lariat and gets the win. We go backstage with Tony Schiavone instead of Alex Marvez at the request of the Young Bucks. He flinches when the door opens, but Matt says they love him, so he's fine. Matt acknowledges that he and his brother never should have put their hands on Alex Marvez or superkicked referee Mike Posner, although Matt can't exactly remember either name. It was out of line, and he promises they'll do better. Then he explains it all away by saying that they've lost a lot lately. Matches, title shots, even friendships. When Tony asks about FTR, Matt freaks out and smashes Schiavone's phone against the wall. Once he calms down, he half-heartedly apologizes before throwing some cash at Tony, much like the Bucks have done with their fines recently. I'm still waiting on my Young Bucks figures. This whole launch has been very disappointing. I think you're going to be looking at my dumb mask for their segments until November. As you can see, I'm doing my best with old WWE figures, and I'm even going to attempt to make a Darby Allin. It will be my first custom though, so please be kind. Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy casually strides to the ring to take on the Exalted One, Mr. Brody Lee, for the TNT Championship. Orange tosses his jacket and shirt at John Silver, who proceeds to beat them up at ringside in comical fashion. Anna Jay hops on the ring apron and gets in Cassidy's face, but he just puts his sunglasses on her. Mr. Brody Lee stands silently as Cassidy puts on his shoulder pad, sticks his hands in his pockets, and unleashes some of his devastating shin kicks. Then, it's time to get serious. The Dark Order huddle up and catch Orange on an attempted dive, only for Mr. Brody Lee to wipe out the whole mass of humanity, including his own guys. Whenever the ref is distracted, the rest of Dark Order beat up Cassidy on the outside. By the end, he acts so beaten down that he can't even stand up to take the discus lariat. Then, he turns on the Jets and hits consecutive tope suicinas. Back in the ring, Orange climbs to the top rope and nails a DDT, followed by 2 penalty kicks, another DDT, and even an air raid crash, yet it still only gets a 2 count. John Silver interferes, so Cassidy hits him with an orange punch, but he turns around into the discus lariat. Mr. Brody Lee retains his TNT championship with a lot of help from his minions. Suddenly, the lights go out. We hear Cody's music, then see him come out dressed to the nines with new dark hair, methodically walking through a cloud of smoke and all the pyro. He throws John Silver aside, takes out 10, and smashes up 5's legs. Mr. Brody Lee, Anna Jay, and Evil Uno escape to the back though with the TNT title belt. Backstage, Anna Jay pushes Dasha aside so Mr. Brody Lee can scream at Cody. He says, "Look what he did to Dustin. Look what Anna Jay did to Brandy. What kind of a man sends his family to fight his battles for him like that?" While Cody's been gone, Brody's been putting in the actual work as champion. He's the one that's really gone from undesirable to undeniable, so now he's challenging Cody to a dog collar match. This time, there won't be anywhere for Cody to run or hide. This was amazing storytelling. Brody Lee got screwed by Vince just as much as Cody did, but he didn't have a famous name or family to fall back on. He had to do the work in his indie career. Now he's the champ and the leader of a faction. He is what Cody has always claimed to be. Plus, there's so many side stories going on within the Dark Order. John Silver keeps looking at Brody's title like Gollum. And why did Colt Cabana come out for Evil Uno's match, but not the Exalted Ones? No need to fantasy book this. AEW has it on lock. Matt Hardy comes out with Private Party. Apparently it's Matt's birthday. He's been thinking about who attacked him last week. Whoever it was wore a mask and used a pipe or a bat. And what a coincidence that moments later, Jericho came up brandishing a bat. So he's the number 1 suspect. Then Jericho used the same bat to cheat in his match with Private Party. He wants to be the demo god, but he's really just an asshole. Of course, that brings out the inner circle to a chorus of Judas. Jericho scolds Matt for putting Sammy Guevara on the shelf for who knows how long. Just kidding, he's back. Jericho admits to being a son of a bitch, but he denies attacking Matt. Hardy says he doesn't care if he's cleared. He'll fight the whole inner circle anytime, anywhere. Mark Quinn steps in though and tells him to go heal up. Then he challenges Jericho. However, Isaiah Cassidy says he's the one that was attacked after their match last week, so he should be the one to take on Jericho in a singles match next week. He knows he's the underdog, but what if someone like him can make the great Chris Jericho his Le Champion bitch? Tully Blanchard is in the ring with FTR. As the executive consultant, he's changing the time limit for FTR title matches from 60 minutes down to 20-minute brushes with greatness. They'll also get to pick their own opponents, so the rankings won't matter. But the real catch is if they aren't defeated in those 20 minutes, they get to count it as a win. So next week, they're starting this off with the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions, SCU. However, an insult to best friends brings them out. Despite being banged up from their epic war with Proud and Powerful, they challenge FTR. The top guys fake like they're going to accept before bailing out. At least we get to see a best friends hug out of it. Next, the winners of the first ever AEW Women's Tag Team Tournament, Ivelisse and Diamante, take on the NWA World Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, and the AEW Women's World Champion, Hikaru Shida. They attack the champions from behind before the bell as they're posing with their title belts. Shida and Thunder Rosa work surprisingly well together, at times better than the established team. Most of the match happens during a commercial break, which, again, isn't doing anything to help AEW's reputation with regard to women's wrestling. In the end, Ivelisse is able to break up the Falcon Arrow, but not the Shining Wizard. Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa are your winners. AEW still needs to fix their women's division. Luckily, between Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb, they have a couple of skilled veterans on hand to coach up the younger ladies. For my fantasy book, Britt Baker needs to be Sheeta's next opponent, while Big Swole could have a fun program against Nyla Rose, especially with Vicky Guerrero on the mic. And no, that's not just because I'm in the process of getting a Vicky Guerrero figure. Chris Jericho is backstage telling Dasha how he's going to beat Isaiah Cassidy next week when MJF walks in. He thinks the way Isaiah spoke to Jericho was deplorable. Once again, they have an escalating exchange of compliments before simultaneously asking, "So why'd you call me a loser?" MJF claims he was calling his reckless limo driver the loser, while Jericho claims he was calling Tony Schiavone a loser. They call each other all right and walk away. In our main event, Eddie Kingston battles Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. It's not the longest match because it was booked so last minute, but it's still a really good, hard-hitting brawl between two fighters, not wrestlers, very reminiscent of Japanese strong style. It starts with a chop battle, then Mox goes through the timekeeper's table. They go back and forth until Kingston misses the spinning back fist, which Moxley counters into a bulldog choke. This is the same hold that took out Brody Lee, and sure enough, it puts Kingston to sleep. Moxley gets the win, but just like Eddie's argument about the Casino Battle Royale, he still looks strong because he was never actually pinned or submitted. Afterwards, the Lucha Brothers rush to the ring and take out Moxley. Will Hobbs makes the save, laying out Phoenix with a massive spinebuster, but the numbers are too much, and he takes a double super kick to the face. Darby Allin's music plays, and he comes out with his skateboard to clean house, until he turns around into a spear from Ricky Starks. Taz looks on proudly from the stage. Starks hits Darby with his own skateboard and follows it up with the Rochambeau, setting up their match next week. The heels stand tall as we fade to black. I think someone on Twitter said it best. How is every Dynamite the best Dynamite? It's so true though. At this point, do I even need to say how brilliant this episode was? Miro's debut was fun despite the botches. Orange Cassidy did his usual entertaining shtick. The women's tag team match was great. I'm intrigued by the subtle, continued crumbling of the once mighty Elite. Everything having to do with the Dark Order is either fascinating storytelling or hysterical comedy. I'm super excited for what is essentially FTR's Open Challenge, and what the heck is going on between MJF and Jericho. Oh yeah, plus the return of Cody. Dynamite is far and away the best pro wrestling show on television right now, and it's such a dramatic difference from the abysmal product that Raw is pumping out. Not just the quality of the shows themselves, but the overall vibe. Every wrestler, crew member, and everyone in the crowd at Daly's Place looks like they're having an absolute blast, and you can feel that energy. On the other hand, whether it's the Performance Center or the Thunderdome, WWE's presentation feels sterile, overproduced, and forced. The crowd at the Performance Center always seems exhausted, like they were trudging through a job forced on them by management. Combine that with the ratings, and it's become embarrassing for NXT to even try competing anymore. The Wednesday Night Wars are over. AEW won. It won't result in the death of WWE like losing the Monday Night Wars would have. That's all the more reason to just concede and surrender. Unfortunately, we all know Vince will never do that. He'll fight this to his grave. Well, that'll do it for another episode of AEW Dynamite. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I'll be back on Saturday with an action figure review of SmackDown. As always, if you found me and enjoy my content, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter at PSUOptimus, or see all my best figure photography on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. If you haven't watched my dark reactions from the garage pool, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.